Right.
We are going to do
41?
because that was Rosh Hashanah. We couldn't do it. And so we're going to do Daf Mem Aleph. And we're going to start with Mem Amid Base 40b. And the discussion is like this. We're going to talk about fasting on Yantif. And the idea is whether or not we have the Yantif going in to the day going into the next day. The question was asked, if there is a fast on Friday, do you complete the fast on Friday? Now, usually in our calendar, we don't have fasts on Fridays unless somebody accepts one upon themselves. Generally, we don't have fasts on Friday. This year in particular, we do have a fast on Friday in the calendar that we have. It's a rarity, but the Asara B'Teves, the 10th day of Teves, is a fast this year on Friday. And the Gemara is going to ask a question, can you complete the fast into Shabbos? Or do we say, no, you can't complete the fast into Shabbos because by doing so, you're fasting on Shabbos, and you're not supposed to fast on Shabbos. So you have to eat immediately prior to the onset of Shabbos. And the Gemara is going to bring this the discussion for this. Now, we have Tisha B'Av, which when it falls on Shabbos is postponed to Sunday, and it becomes the 10th day. Or if Tisha B'Av is on Sunday, the Gemara is going to point out that we do start the fast on Shabbos because you have to start immediately prior to sunset in order to make sure that you have a full, whenever Tisha B'Av starts, you're already fasting. So you're fasting in the last few minutes of Shabbos. And the Gemara is going to look at whether that's a good comparison to fasting from Friday a little bit into Shabbos or not. Also, the question is going to be, if somebody is fasting on a Yantif, do they complete the fast or break it beforehand? So that's the question at hand. Amar Rabba said, when we were in the Academy of Rav Huna, the question was asked, Barbe Rav, the Yosef Atanis, a person accepted upon himself a fast, a personal fast. They had a bad dream. They need whatever it is they may be, that they're choosing to fast, and the mincha before that day, they accepted upon themselves a fast. The next day they have to fast. So they decided on Thursday they're going to fast Friday. Friday they fast. Do they complete the fast, or do they go into Shabbos? And by doing so, they're actually fasting on the day of Shabbos, a few minutes, whatever it is, but they're into the Shabbos day with a fast. Or do we say, no, you break it beforehand? But Mali Shab says, since it's a Friday, Ma'ula Shlumi, does it complete the fast? Lehava B'yadi, he didn't know the answer. Asel Kamei Rav Yehuda came before Rav Yehuda. Lehava B'yadi, he didn't know the answer. Amar Rava, so Rava said, Nechzanan, let's try and figure this out. The Tanya we saw in our case, Tisha B'Av Shachal Liyas B'Shabbos. A Tisha B'Av that's on Shabbos. That means the 9th of Av is on Shabbos, we don't fast. The next day, Sunday, becomes a fast. So we go to Mem Aleph Amid Aleph, 41a. V'chein Erev Tisha B'Av Shachal Liyas B'Shabbos. Or if the 8th day of Av is on Shabbos, again, so Sunday is the 9th of Av and the fast of Tisha B'Av. Either way, whether the 8th of Av is Shabbos or the 9th of Av is Shabbos, the fast is going to be Sunday, the 9th or the 10th, because you don't fast on Shabbos. So all of Shabbos, you eat as much as you want, you drink as much as you want, you can eat even the best meal. You can even bring a meal that Shlomo served when he became king. The pasuk says he had an enormous wealth and this enormous meal that was set for all the guests and for himself, and so you can even do that, no problem. However, Chal Tisha B'Av Be'erev Shabbos, but if Tisha B'Av is on Friday, Mevin leKabetza v'Oichel, then we bring him an egg right before Shabbos, and he'll eat it. Kadesh leikanos Shabbos kashumuna, so you don't enter Shabbos while under affliction of the fast. And the Brisa continues. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda says, and once we were sitting with Rabbi Akiva, and it was Tisha B'Av that was on a Shabbos. So, Be'erev Shabbos, it was on a Friday. So Friday was Tisha B'Av. And so there was a fast going on. Now, as I mentioned before, we don't have a fast day, a Tisha B'Av on Friday. The calculation of the calendar that we have is such that Friday is never a fast, almost never a fast day, besides, as I mentioned, the 10th of Teves in this year. But generally, there's no fast because that's the way they worked it out. But at the time of Rabbi Akiva, they were still, the calendar was still set by witnesses seeing the new moon. And so sometimes it would work out that Tisha B'Av was on Friday, and indeed in Rabbi Akiva's day it was. And it was a Friday fast for Tisha B'Av. And they brought him a soft-boiled egg, and he ate it without salt. Now Rabbi Yehuda concludes, not that he really needed it. Rather, he did so in order to show the students that the halacha is that you don't complete a fast into Shabbos, because if you do so, you're going to be fasting on Shabbos. So right before Shabbos, you break your fast on a Friday fast. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says was the reasoning of Rabbi Akiva. And as Tosas points out here, the halacha is not this way, and that actually the tradition was that Rabbi Akiva didn't. That was not the reason Rabbi Akiva broke his fast, but rather he broke his fast because he was weak and ill. But Rabbi Yehuda was interpreting it as if Rabbi Akiva held that you would break the fast before Shabbos because you're not allowed to enter Shabbos while fasting. However, Rabbi Yossi, and this is going to be the halacha, Rabbi Yossi, Omer mis'ano mashlim, you fast and you complete the fast into Shabbos. Amalei Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi said, and I can prove it to you. Wouldn't you agree that when Tisha B'Av is on a Sunday, when you begin the fast, you don't begin after Havdalah, because then it's already in Tisha B'Av. You haven't fasted. So you must start before twilight, before the day of Shabbos ends. So the last minute of Shabbos or 2 minutes of Shabbos, you're already fasting so that you know for sure you didn't eat on Tisha B'Av. That means you're beginning your fast on Shabbos. Don't you agree to that? You have to stop when it's still day, when it's still Shabbos. Amar le'aval, they said indeed. So he said, Amar le'hem, mali likanes kashumona, mali lotzis mene kashumona. Who cares if he's fasting the last 2 minutes of Shabbos or the first 2 minutes of Shabbos? Either way, he's fasting on Shabbos. Must be that it doesn't make a difference as long as you don't fast the whole Shabbos. You fast on Friday into Shabbos 2 minutes, fine. You fast on Sunday, starting 2 minutes, the last 2 minutes of Shabbos, okay. So they said to him, how can you compare the two? Of course, when you're leaving Shabbos and begin your fast the last 2 minutes of Shabbos, Sunday is going to be difficult. But the first 2 minutes, you're not in pain. You're not afflicting yourself on Shabbos. You just ate wonderful meals on Shabbos, 3 beautiful meals, and you're coming to the beginning of Tisha B'Av fully satiated and not in pain, infliction at all. That's not a problem. But if you fast on Friday and you enter Shabbos still in fast, you actually are those 2 minutes of Shabbos that you've entered. You actually are hungry. You're in an affliction. So would you go into Shabbos when you're fasting that he hasn't eaten for 24 hours already? So that's the machlokas in the brisa. And now we're going to the question of whether or not you can break a fast before it or not. We have Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda. Ula says that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that you do not break your fast before Shabbos. Well, later we'll see whether you're not allowed to break your fast before Shabbos, or you don't have to, but you're allowed to. So Gemara says, wait, is it are you saying halacha is like Rabbi Yossi that you don't break the fast before Shabbos when it's a Friday fast? We have a contradiction. There's a brisa that says in Gozim Tainas Alatzibur Barosh Chadashim Ubachanaka Ubapur. On Hanukkah, Purim, and Rosh Chodesh, we don't enact a fast day because they're holidays. They're Yomim Tovim, and so we're not going to make a fast, a communal fast. However, if there is already a fast established, we'll continue it. That means if Beis Din sees that there are troubles coming to Am Yisrael, and they say the next 4 weeks, every Monday and Thursday is a fast day, or for the next 30 days we're fasting, and Purim is in the middle, or 30 days there's a Rosh Chodesh in the middle. So since they started already and there's a consecutive fast, or every Monday and Thursday is fast, and Rosh Chodesh is on one of the Thursdays, so then you're going to continue that fast because you already started it in a system. Gamliel says once you started, you don't stop. Amar Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says even though we said if you started, you don't stop. Even though if you started some system, let's say every Monday and every Thursday you're fasting, and Rosh Chodesh is on a Thursday, so you're going to fast that Thursday, but you won't complete the day. You're going to eat before the end of the day. And similar, the Brisa says, Tisha B'Av Shechali is Be'erev Shabbos, a Tisha B'Av that's on Friday. You're not going to eat. You're not going to go all the way into Shabbos, but rather you'll eat beforehand. Betanya, and we have a brisa that says, after Rabbi Gamliel passed away, and this is Rabbi Gamliel who said that you would not fast on Rosh Chodesh, etc. But if you started a system of fast, you would fast, but you wouldn't complete it. When Rabbi Gamliel passed away, Rabbi Yeshua attempted to change that halacha and to say that was incorrect, and that you don't have to stop the fast before the end of the day, and you can complete the fast. Rabbi Yeshua was the elder at the time, after Rabbi Gamliel, and so he wanted to rule against Rabbi Gamliel. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who was a colleague of Rabbi Yeshua, actually he was Rabbi Yeshua's teacher in some respects. Amad Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri on Raglov, he stood up, but Amar, he said, Chazi another basaresha gufa azla. Watch me, as I stood up, my head went first and the body followed the head. Right? So too, we're going to follow the leader. Rabbi Gamliel passed away, but he was still our leader. He ruled, and we're going to follow him. All the days of Rabbi Gamliel, we follow the halacha like he said. Now you want to try and change the halacha that he said, that you will break the fast on a yontif before it ends. Yeshua ain't shomelacha. And he was a colleague, so he called him by his first name, Yehoshua. Rabbi Yehoshua, we are not going to follow you. The halacha was already established like Rabbi Gamliel, and nobody argued with Rabbi Gamliel, and therefore the halacha remains. If there's a fast on a Rosh Chodesh, we're going to not complete that fast. So the Gemara says it's true. B'darash Rabbi Gamliel, Avid Rabbi Gamliel, in the generation of Rabbi Gamliel, the halacha was done that way. However, b'darash Rabbi Yossi, in the generation after, when Rabbi Yossi came around, Avid Rabbi Yossi, the halacha was done like Rabbi Yossi. This is a couple of generations later, and that and that became the halacha. Now, so the Gemara says that Ula said the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that we don't break the fast, the mitzvah of the fast. You go and complete the day. So the Gemara says, Ubedorah Rabbi Gamliel, Avid Rabbi Gamliel, and in the days of Rabbi Gamliel, you do like Rabbi Gamliel. Vatani, we learned Rabbi Elazar ben Tzaddik. Rabbi Elazar ben Tzaddik said, Ani ayisi, ani mibnei sanav shel ben Yamin. There were families in the time of the Beis HaMikdash that they were designated to bring the wood carbon. They would have these wonderful forests, and they would cut down the wood, and you needed a chunk of wood, a block of wood, to bring to the Mizbeach for the pyre, for the fire on the Mizbeach. And various families had the mitzvah at certain times of the year that they donated and brought all the wood for the Mizbeach. And the special mitzvah they had became a family yontiv, a family a holiday yontiv for the day that they brought this. So the 10th day of Av was the day that the family of Sanav ben Binyamin would bring the wood. So all the descendants would have that day, the 10th day of Av, as a yontif. Now, as we mentioned before, sometimes the 10th day of Av is Tisha B'Av, even though Tisha B'Av means the 9th of Av. But the fast, if it was on a Sunday, the 10th was on a Sunday, meaning Shabbos was the 9th day of Av, and you can't fast. So the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, was moved to Sunday, and which coincided with their family festival, with their family Yontif. So he said, I am of the descendants of Sana ben Binyamin. And 1 year Tisha B'Av was on Shabbos, and it was postponed. The fast was postponed to after Shabbos, meaning Sunday, the day of our family celebration. We fasted that day, but we didn't complete it. Before the end of the day, we ate. Because it is a yontif for our family. Taima, so the Gemara now wants to deduce this. Why did they fast? Why did they break the fast? Because it was a yontif of their family, so they can't complete the fast. The yontifu, erev yontif, mashlimin. But if it was erev yontif, they would complete it. How do we know that? Because every year Tisha B'Av is, the fast is on the 9th of Av, and their yontif is on the 10th. That means the Tisha B'Av fast every year goes into their yontif. And yet, they would fast the Tisha B'Av until after nightfall, meaning into the 10th, the day of their family celebration. And they only broke the fast when Tisha B'Av was on the yontif itself. But the Erev, the day before, where it entered a few minutes into their yontif, they didn't break the fast beforehand. So too for us. When you have a fast day on Friday, you don't have to break it because it's only a few minutes into Shabbos, like Rabbi Yossi. So from the story of Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Tzadok, who was of the family of Sana ben Binyamin, we see that a fast on the day before Shabbos, before Yontif, can go into Yontif. And only if it's on the day itself, then you would break the fast for the celebration. So Gemara answers, no dice. Amar Avina, how can you compare that? Shani Yontif shel Devreim mitoch shemasana b'shois mashlimim b'arvias. Their celebration was a personal celebration, a rabbinic celebration, like Hanukkah, Purim. It wasn't a Yontif, it wasn't Shabbos. So of course, you're allowed to fast part of the day, and therefore you're also allowed to fast until the end of the day. So therefore the beginning of the day, the couple of hours or the couple of minutes that the Friday the Tisha B'Av went into the 10th, big deal. That's a few minutes, not a big deal. However, Shabbos, where you're not allowed to even fast part of the day, you're not allowed to fast until midday by Shabbos. You have to eat some time before halachic noon. Shabbos, so then you can't complete a fast of Friday into Shabbos even for a few minutes. That's the Gemara argument at this point. This halacha of the family of Sana of Ben Binyamin actually is a relevant halacha if somebody, because we also have personal yontifs. Where do we have that? Somebody who is the sandak at a bris, or someone who is the moil at a bris, or someone who's had a son, the bris is that day. For them, it is a personal yontif, and they have halachic leniencies on account of that. Even though the halacha says that on a Tisha B'Av that is postponed to Sunday, if there is a bris, the sandak, the moil, and the parents don't have to fast. The mother doesn't have to fast anyhow because she just gave birth. But the father wouldn't have to fast. Nevertheless, the custom is not that way. And the Aruch HaShulchan writes that he's never seen anybody break Tisha B'Av and break the fast of Tisha B'Av because they did a bris. That wouldn't be appropriate. But nevertheless, the basis for that conversation begins in our Gemara here. This concept of not fasting on a personal yontif on a day that somebody has a special mitzvah like a bris. In any case, so we had this conversation. The question was, if you fast on Friday, do you complete the fast even though you're going into Shabbos, or do you have to break it beforehand? The first opinion, Rabbah said you break it beforehand. Rav Yossi said that you don't break it, you fast into Shabbos, and Ula said that's the halacha. We had Rabbi Gamliel who said on a yontiv itself, you would break it before the end of the day. We're trying to prove whether or not in the days of Rabbi Gamliel that happened. We had the story of son of Ben Binyamin, Elazar Tzaddik, the descendant of son of Ben Binyamin, who would not fast on the 10th, but seemingly on the 9th into the 10th he would. And we said, but that's not proof to our conversation because that was a personal yontif, not on Shabbos. But on Shabbos, perhaps you cannot fast even for the first 2 minutes. Amar Rav Yosef l'shami l'hashmaitis. So Rav Yosef said, I never heard this conversation. I never learned this halacha. And as you remember, Rav Yosef became ill and he had memory loss. And his students would remind him of the teaching. So Amali Abaye, who was a student of Rav Yosef, said to him, Ata Amras Ne'elan, you did teach us to us. Va'aha Amras Ne'elan, and on this brisa you taught it to us. The brisa had said, Ein gozun tainas alatziba b'Rosh Chodeshim. You may not enact a fast day on Rosh Chodesh, on Purim, on Hanukkah, as we saw before, unless you've already started. Then you go into it. Then it says V'amas Allah, and on about that halacha, it was said Amar Yehuda Amar Rav, Zudiv Rabbi Meir. That Yehuda said in the name of Rav, you Rabbi Yossi taught us that Rav said that this is only the opinion of Rabbi Meir. However, Shama Meshumar Gamliel, because he was quoting Rabbi Gamliel. However, Avo Chachamim Amrim, but the majority of the Chachamim, they say Mis'ane o Mashlim, you fast and you complete the fast, you don't break the fast midday. Now, since the fact that you taught it to us in the name of the majority, and this is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi that we saw earlier, we know the halacha is that way. My lava kulu, and wouldn't you say it's going on all aspects on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim? Chanukah, Purim. Only on Chanukah, Purim, I said that the halacha disagrees. That's not the halacha. Hachanam Mistabri, and that's logical. Now we go to Mem Aleph Amud Beis. The Isa Kedat Hakulu, because if it's going about all matters, because we already had the question. Rabbi asked Rabbi Yehuda about Shabbos, and he didn't know the answer. So you see that wasn't a part of the conversation. The Gemara says no. We have a statement that Marzuta taught in the name of Rav Huna that you fast and complete the fast into the next day, into Shabbos. But Rabbi asked Rav Huna and he didn't know the answer. It must be that the distinction is, first he didn't know the answer, and then it was told to him this teaching from Rabbi Yossi, and Allah is like Rabbi Yossi, and so now he knew that you have to complete the fast into Shabbos. So too, in regards to Rabbi Yehuda, could be first he didn't know, and then once he learned. Darash Marzut Mishmei Rav Huna, indeed, the Marzut are taught in the name of Rav Huna. Halacha Misana Mashlimin. Halacha is you fast and you complete the fast. And as I mentioned before, there's a question in Tosas here. Does that mean you don't have to break it before Shabbos? You're allowed to go into Shabbos while still fasting, but you also are allowed to break it? Or no, you need a reason to break it, like we saw Rabbi Akiva, who was ill. But other than that, you do not break it, and that is halacha. You don't break Shabbos. You don't break the fast for Shabbos. You even enter Shabbos, it's just a few minutes. Then you say Kiddush, and you complete the fast, and that is relevant to this year. On the 10th of Teves, we're going to have that. Marvin, with this we complete the third chapter, the third parak of Eruvin, Makoma Arvin. We should come back to you, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. The next parak begins with the question of what happens if somebody actually left the 2,000 Amma that were his Tchum Shabbos. He's not supposed to travel beyond 2,000 Amma outside of his city. In the onset of Shabbos, he was in the city, and then he left. Now, if he left, we saw earlier already, he can only remain within the 4 Ammas that he is. Well, what happens if he was forced out? What happens if he was forced out and forced back? What happens if he was forced out and came back alone? What happens if he went out alone and was forced back? All these are going to be a matter of discussion in the Gemara. Let's see the Mishnah. Somebody who, non-Jews, forced them out of the city, out of the Tchum Shabbos, 3,000 Amma away from the city. So now he can only be within the 4 Amma that he is. On Rachra, or psychosis. a bad spirit, evil spirit got into him, and he didn't know what he was doing. And then he finds himself, he comes to, and he's outside of the city, 2,000, 3,000 am away. Ein lo ela dalad amas. He can only be the 4 amas that he is. However, hechziruhu, if the same people that kidnapped him out of the city brought him back into the city, kilu leyatzes, as if he never left. Because at the onset of Shabbos, he accepted Shabbos. This was his Shabbos domain. So therefore, he's back in here. Who cares that somebody took him out and brought him back? He is allowed to walk around the city. However, they took him, instead of to this city, they took him to another city beyond the 2,000 amma. And generally we say that when you're inside a city, so the boundary of that city all counts as 4 ammas. And you can walk the entirety of the city. But that's only if you started Shabbos in there, perhaps. As the Gemara is going to say on 42b, on Mem Beis, on Beis. But perhaps if you were started in one city and then ended in another city, that you cannot walk the entirety of that space. Nasnu Badir, or they didn't take him to another city, but they took him to a fenced-in area like a pen, an animal pen, a basar, or a prison. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, and Malachas Kula. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi ben Azariah, and Rabbi Gamliel, they say, since he's in an enclosed area, it all counts as one halachic space. He can walk it all counts as 4 amas. He can walk from one end to the other. However, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Kiva, he can only be within the 4 amas. The Mishnah now tells us a story. Masa Shabo Mipalandrasin, which seems to be a place in Italy, and they were on a boat from Italy. And the boat was in the sea beyond 2,000 amas of where they started. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah walked the entirety of the boat back and forth because it's all enclosed in the boat, and so they walked the distance. The Gemara is going to tell us two reasons as to why. Either because the entirety the boat is enclosed in 4 walls, or on account of that, as the boat moves, so too every step he takes it's taking him to a new 4 amma space. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Kiva Leizazu. However, Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva, they remained in the 4 ammas for the duration. Because they want to be strict on themselves, and the Gemara is going to tell us they didn't have to do this, but they wanted to. Another time, they were on a boat, and they were traveling on Friday, and they got close to the harbor, to the port, but not actually into the port before Shabbos set in. Amar le Rabbi Gamliel, so they said to Rabbi Gamliel, Ma anuleri, can we go down? Amar le, and he said to them, Mutar matem, yes, you can go off the boat onto the shores, because Shekvar Yisi Mistakel, because I was looking, he had a device that he can check the distance, and I was looking at it, because prior to sunset, prior to nightfall, we were already within the 2,000 am. Tanarabana. So the Brisa taught Gimel Dvarim Aviras Adam Shal Al Daita. There are 3 things that cause a person to lose his mind. Vel Das Koine, not only his own mind, but also his connection with Hashem. Elohein of the Kachavim, idolatry or idolaters. V'ruach ra, and psychosis, a bad spirit. V'dikduke anias, and the difficulties of poverty. L'maynaf kamina. So why do you have to know this? L'miboy rachmei elai. If you see somebody has any of these 3 difficulties, pray for them so that they don't lose their mind. Gimel ein roim pnei Gehenna. There are 3 people who suffer so much in this world, they will not see a Gehenna. Elohein dikduke anias, the pangs of poverty. V'chole ma'ayin, somebody who has the difficult pains of a stomach illness, Crohn's or something like that. V'hareshus, and government, either someone who's constantly in debt and has people going after him for his debt, for repayment, or just somebody who's beholden to government obligations, like in a fiefdom or something like that. So all these are tremendous difficulties, and they won't see Gehenna. And some say even someone who has a wife that's very difficult. The idach and the other say, Isha ra mitzvah l'garsha. No, if it's so difficult, you have an out in this world. You have the opportunity to divorce her, and in fact, you don't lose your mind. You should do so. The idach and the other opinion says no. Zimnin the ksubasa maruba. Sometimes he can't afford because he would have to pay her kasuba, and he can't afford it. Inami isla banamino, or he has children, and it wouldn't be good for the children to destroy the family. Or some other reasons he cannot divorce her. So perhaps he can't divorce her, and he's suffering. So what difference does it make if these are ailments? There's nothing to do about it. To accept it, we'll have us say, you know what? It is atoning for my sins. In the end, I won't have Gehenna. The three types of people that would die in the midst of a sentence, in the middle of what they have. Somebody has a stomach ailment, can die even though he's not. It's not a slow decline. V'chaya, and in childbirth, it's not a slow decline. Vadrukan, and some ailment. Vadrukan here, Rashi seems to say it's a oral ailment. Elsewhere, Rashi seems to say it's a stomach ailment. L'maynaf kamina. What difference does it make that somebody can die like this? L'mashmushi be'izavdasa, to prepare his will, to prepare his tachrichim, his shrouds, to make sure that they're ready. Somebody that if they don't expect to pass, so they're not prepared and they don't take care of their will. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. So Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, Yatza Ladas. Back to our Mishnah. If this person left intentionally, so in the case of the Mishnah, he left unintentionally and then was brought back by the kidnappers unintentionally against his will. But what happens if this person left by his own will, walked out of the city, walked past 2,000 Amma, and now bandits took him captive and brought him back in the city? Now, so he says, if he left on his own, Ein Leil Dalet Amas, and he only has a 4 Amas, Pshita, that's obvious. If he was forced out of the city and out of the Tuchum, he only has 4 Amas. For sure, if you left on your own, you only have 4 Amas. The idea is, if he left intentionally, so rather the first statement is going to be, he left by force, but came back intentionally. He wasn't supposed to, but he did. Is he allowed to walk around the entire city now, where he originally started Shabbos and he had the entirety of the city, or does he only have 4 Amas? For that, he only has 4 Amas. The Gemara says, Hanami Tanina. That seems indicative from our Mishnah as well. Why? Because our Mishnah said, first statement, if he was forced out, he only has 4 Amas. If he was forced back in, he has the entirety of the city. Only if he was forced back in. But if he chose to walk in, he doesn't have the entirety. If he was forced back in, then it's as if he never left. If they forced him back, it's as if he never left. But if he was forced out of the city and came back alone, he only has a 4 Amas. So we see from our Mishnah, it's already indicative that whether he left intentionally on his own, or even if he was forced out, if he came back intentionally on his own, he only has 4 Amas. So rather, the case of this statement must be that this person left the city on his own. And he's 3,000 Amma out, and he's not allowed to go beyond his 4 Amas. And now, bandits pick him up and bring him back into town. Still, even though he was forced back into town, he only has a 4 Amas because he gave up his Shabbos space by having walked out on his own. That seems clear in our case as well. Because in our Mishnah it says if they took him out, and then it says if they brought him back in, it's as if he never left. But it's only because they first took him out and then brought him back in. But perhaps these are two statements that are tied up with each other, and only if the ones that after he was forced out, was he forced back in, that he can walk the entire city. But otherwise not. But if he left on his own, perhaps it would seem indicative that he doesn't have the rights to the city. So Ma'od Tema, no, I may have thought that's not the case. Let's Dad Katani, 2 separate statements. First statement in the Mishnah is if he was forced out of the city, he out of the Tachum, he only has 4 amos. Another statement, whether he walked out on his own or he was forced out. If he was forced back in, he can go into the entire city because this was his original Shabbos space. So he has this space still. That's why we needed to say no. If he walked back in or he walked out alone and then was forced back in, either way, he doesn't have rights to own any more than 4 amos in the city. Let's start Tani. Perhaps what I would have thought is but if he left alone and then came back by force, if he never left, Kamash Malan, that's why he told us that he only if he was forced out and forced back does he have the rights to the whole city. Gemara now asks a question. What happens if somebody needs the bathroom? This person is outside of the Tchum. He's stuck in 4 amos, and now he needs the restroom. So the question was asked of Rabbah. Somebody needs the bathroom. So he said, of course, he's allowed to go to the bathroom. Because the Tchum, the concept of not walking 4 amos outside of 2,000 amos, we said it was a rabbinic prohibition. Could be that at some distance it's the Oraisa prohibition, but within beyond 2,000 amos, 3,000 amos, etc., that's a rabbinic prohibition. And we know that Gadol Kavod Abrios, the self-dignity of a human being is so great that it supersedes even the Torah obligation of listening to the Chachamim. The Torah says, that you have to listen to all that the Chachamim tell you. You should not turn away from their rulings, right or left. And yet, the Chachamim said, for the value of dignity of a human, you're allowed to transgress this rabbinic prohibition, which is a Torah obligation of listening to the rabbinic prohibition. So Amri Nahardai. So based on that, in Nahardai, they said, you know what? So anytime he needs a bathroom, walk back to the city for the bathroom. If he's a wise man, he goes back into the city. And once he's in with the right, he's in the city. And that's and it's as if he never left. Rashi says, since he went back with permission, it's as if he never left. It's as if he was forced back by bandits, and he would be allowed to walk around the whole city. Okay, that's the end of Mem Aleph.